Let the men of war draw near. Let them come up.
Imagine for a moment that the unimaginable happens. A nuclear weapon explodes over London. In this documentary, we explore the devastating consequences of this catastrophe. In the simulation, we will use a warhead with a yield
and I
of
saw the number of them,
200,000.
200,000.
That's a pretty powerful charge. Some US and Russian ballistic missiles are capable of carrying up to 10 charges in a single missile. Upon detonation, a fireball as hot as the sun rapidly expands, reaching a radius of 950 meters. Anything trapped inside this fireball is instantly vaporized. In our simulation, the epicenter of the explosion is at Westminster. People within that radius won't even feel anything, because the nerve impulse transmission speed is slower. Within 5 kilometers of the epicenter, the blast radius. City of London, Camden Town, Kensington, Brixton. These areas will receive the most destruction. Buildings will be destroyed and debris will fill the streets, creating extremely dangerous conditions for everyone in the vicinity. Given the population density in central London, the initial death toll could exceed 250,000 people and around 600,000.
And by these was the third part of man
killed. Within a radius
killed.
of 10 kilometers, the radiation will cause third-degree burns. Within that radius,
Grievous sores
anything that
fell
can burn
upon them
will
that
catch fire.
received.
Gas stations, automobiles, power substations, gas infrastructure. Explosive facilities will explode and amplify the effect of the devastation over a huge area, including areas from Camden to Greenwich and Islington to Wandsworth. According to various estimates, further 450,000 people will die from burns, debris injuries, or radiation sickness, and over 1 million will be traumatized. Many of these injuries could prove fatal over the next days and weeks. Radiation sickness in particular will take lives days and weeks later. In time, about 100,000 more will be added to the death toll. Within an 18-kilometer radius of the blast, the shock wave will be enough to shatter windows, causing additional casualties to people who come to the windows when they see the nuclear blast. The shock wave will reach Hounslow, Edgware, and Enfield. Depending on the wind, the fallout could spread well beyond the immediate blast zone, potentially affecting areas up to 5 to 10 kilometers away, causing damage even in regions such as Essex or Surrey. The estimated casualties in the event of a 750 kiloton nuclear bomb exploding in London would be about 850,000 people dead and about 2 million injured. If the explosion were to occur on the ground rather than in the air, the fallout map would be greatly expanded, and the radioactive fallout could even reach Manchester, infecting people, land, and animals. The problem with a nuclear explosion in London is also that London is essentially not designed to survive such a disaster. 11 of London's 20 major hospitals would be within the blast. The remaining hospitals would be physically unable to cope with the number of victims. Many people are still alive under the rubble of the buildings, suffering burns, but no one will be able to help them. Since the creation of nuclear weapons less than 100 years ago, there have been more than 20 incidents where a nuclear-armed country was one step away from a nuclear catastrophe. You can easily find these statistics on Wikipedia. I will attach a link to this article in the description of the video. I want to call everyone to action. Nuclear weapons are a real threat to our future. Give this video a like and share it so that as many people...
Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors the elders and apostles, great millstone, who are teaching the truth in sincerity. And a shout out to Yaakim's out there in the four corners of the earth proclaim this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Brakatum. So, the cup of wrath of his indignation is the lake of fire, when these things will be fired all over Babylon. And you're just seeing what one could do. Imagine 200,000 of them, most of them landing on Babylon, which is America. America's going to be wiped out by nuclear destruction. That's why we hold the signs up like we do. Key Ukraine stronghold about to fall to Russia. Zelensky touts victory plan in D.C. Having been in the U.S. since Sunday, Ukraine President Zelensky is about to present his victory plan to Biden, as well as Harris and former President Trump, likely in that order as the meetings unfold this week. He told the ABC News interview on Tuesday, "I think we are closer to peace than we think." But he caveated this by saying, "We'll be assured if Ukraine comes from a strong position with the help of Western backers." He ain't close, because what's really happening is it's pretty much being wiped out, as this video goes into.
The Kiev regime, which came to power as a result of a coup d'etat inspired by the West in 2014, immediately unleashed a bloody civil war against the residents of the south and east of the country, who did not want to part with their identity and honor Nazi collaborators. Because of this, the Maidan government almost immediately lost Crimea. Then, in 2015, this conflict was frozen by the signing of the Minsk package of measures, approved by the UN Security Council. However, the new Ukrainian authorities, instead of implementing this document, sabotaged it in every possible way. They actively armed themselves and prepared for war with Russia, with the help of the United States and its allies, as a number of retired Western politicians admitted. After the regime in Kiev categorically refused to implement the Minsk agreements, and its Western sponsors rejected any dialogue with Russia on European security issues, our country, faced with a sharp increase in Ukrainian attacks on peaceful cities of the Donbas republics, decided to launch a special military operation. It could have ended a month later, when the Russian army was on the outskirts of Kiev. However, the West dissuaded the Kiev leader from signing the draft peace treaty initialed by Ukraine in Istanbul, promising to support the Ukrainian army in every possible way, which allegedly in this case would be able to defeat Russia on the battlefield. However, despite the abundant supply of weapons, including long-range ones, the supply of intelligence information, targeting, the dispatch of mercenaries and instructors, and the actual direct participation of the West in the conflict, with the goal of inflicting a strategic defeat on Russia at the cost of Ukrainian lives, the Ukrainian army today is on the brink of complete defeat.
So there you have it, though. Ukraine really does not have the military personnel unless NATO intervenes. Unless the U.S. sends more troops over there. Yeah, that ain't going to go over well. Ukraine is pretty much defeated. And the only thing they can do is give up the territories that are pretty much Russian territories and call an end to this to save lives. But do you think the West is really going to do that? Absolutely not. Deep state claims Iran seeking to kill Trump after Biden Department of Justice openly placed bounty on his head. So like everything else though, so they want to set up a false flag to blame Iran, for taking out Trump, as this is going into. Let's try to play a little bit of this. It is part of rhetoric, but God damn it. You can't even fast forward the commercials anymore. Alright. Getting on with it. I won't play the whole thing, just parts of it.
You're listening to The American Journal with your host, Harrison Smith. Watch it live right now at band.video.
Alright, welcome back, folks. Our last segment, since we did away with our third commercial break during the hour. So support us by going to InfoWarsStore.com while you still can. Now's the time, folks. Stock up on what could very well be collector's items as of just a few months from now. Again, Alex Jones will be taking to the airwaves in about 30 minutes, a little less, to give you the behind-the-scenes breakdown of what exactly is happening with InfoWars and the latest court decision.
Oh boy! So you know that
I figured I'd spend the last
a famine of the word is coming, right?
Going over some of the giant news from today, because it really never ends, and it is all so incredibly crazy. And like I was talking about before with the fact that there are so many different people and organizations who will focus on certain aspects of what's going on, which is good and positive, and that's what we need, because it is overwhelming, the number of plots in motion right now. And the fact is, we've moved on from conspiracy to something else, to open conspiracy, to just blatant tyranny at this point, where they aren't keeping what they're doing secret. They're doing it right out in the open in front of everybody.
Yeah. It's blatant.
And they just keep doing it. And so if I just try to, like every once in a while, I was doing it yesterday, just trying to list out, just going, okay, what are the big things we need to focus on right now? What are the big things happening? Obviously, the war between Lebanon and Israel is a very big deal and could very well lead to World War III and is more intense
and it will.
than anything happening in the Middle East since
I wish I could afford this, like, but it doesn't have the option anymore.
Same time, you've got Ukraine and Russia, another obvious flashpoint to World War III. You've got the sort of behind-the-scenes diplomatic maneuvers by China in Africa and elsewhere, laying the groundwork for the one world government. The invasion is obviously a massive issue, but with every one of these branches, you have 1,000 other branches that come off it, right? The invasion alone has like a dozen aspects to it that each one we could spend 3 hours a day talking about. The human trafficking that goes on, the sex trafficking, the demographic replacement, the white genocide that's taking place slowly but surely, the money being made, the UN being involved, the absurdity of both sending billions of dollars to countries south of us in hopes that improving.
All right, it's just taking too long, and well, you can't just really fast forward, probably because that was live anyways, but either way though, you know, the idea is that it may possibly, well, you know that it's a shit show anyways, and Donald Trump is just as much playing into that. If Hezbollah collapses, it opens the curtains on Israeli state versus Iran. See, they've been telling you for years that Israeli state really wants a war with Iran, you know, and that's been in the making for a long time. President George W. wants to be wailed. Rarely is a question asked, is our children learning? Radical ideas thrown around by Harris and Trump pre-election. Economists are asking the same about presidents. However, presidents can rightly ask it about economists. Trump underlined his potential plans for ultra-low taxes and regulations. Well, either way though, it's talking about all kinds of things here. Yeah, I mean, Israeli state says Israeli state will hit harder until Hezbollah buckles, which leads to war. Hezbollah and Iran may respond on a scale that triggers war. Indeed, of writing warning alarms just off in Tel Aviv. If Hezbollah collapses, it opens the curtains on Israeli state versus Iran. The West has no leadership on the issue, and the U.S. is AWOL due to the looming election. Well, nonetheless, though, Benjamin not a Jew, well, Erdogan said, Benjamin not a Jew must be stopped just like Hitler. The Turkish leader addressed to the UN condemning Israelis' handling of the Gaza conflict. Turkish President Erdogan urged the international community to take action against Benjamin not a Jew. Murder Network once again likening the Israeli dictator to Adolf Hitler. In his address to the 79th UN General Assembly in New York on Tuesday, Erdogan condemned the Israeli government's actions in Gaza, describing the Palestinian enclave as a concentration camp. Just as Hitler was stopped by the Alliance of Humanity 70 years ago, Benjamin not a Jew and his murderous network must be stopped by the Alliance of Humanity, Erdogan said. He accused Benjamin not a Jew to drag the entire region into war. What does that say? At the least the flock shall draw everyone in? See, this is biblical, and we're living in it.
The assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of the Republic of Turkey, I request protocol to escort His Excellency.
We'll get into this a little bit.
And shamelessly challenge the whole world, who are people of conscience, from this very rostrum. They challenge them. My friends, leaked images from Israel's prisons, which it has turned into concentration camps, clearly show what kind of barbarianism we are facing. As a result of Israeli attacks, Gaza has become the world's largest cemetery for women and children. More than 17,000 children were targeted by Israeli bullets and bombs. Hind Recep was only 6 years old. He and his family were seeking safety when their car was hit by Israeli forces. He lost everything. He lost his mother, father, siblings, cousins. He lost all the hopes he had packed. And only he survived. He waited desperately for rescue for 12 days. Will you come to take me? I'm fearful. Was waiting for a helping hand to reach out to him for 12 days. Despite the level of our world has reached, despite the technology at our disposal, despite our organizations with huge budgets employing tens of thousands of personnel, as a human family of 8 billion inhabitants, we haven't yet managed to rescue a 6-year-old girl, which is actually like an injured sparrow trapped under the rubble that was shaking before our eyes. Hundreds of Gazan children died and are still dying because they cannot find a morsel of dry bread, a sip of water, and a bowl of soup. In Gaza, not only children are dying, but also the United Nations system. The values that the West claims to defend are dying. The truth is dying. The hopes of humanity to live in a more just world are dying one by one.
And you know, eventually he's going to get involved because the scriptures tell you he is, as you bring out Ezekiel chapter 38, which I will in a minute. Nonetheless, though, this is what's happening between Hezbollah and an Israeli state. Israeli state, of course, bombed a warehouse in Lebanon, Beirut. So there ain't nothing but rubble left. So they're turning Lebanon into Gaza. Lebanon is broke. They are broke, and Israeli state probably will defeat Hezbollah. I mean, in the essence of that'll draw everybody in. Once Hezbollah is gone, they'll draw Iran into the war. And that's what Erdogan was saying. That unless all those nations come together to defeat the Israeli state will still keep taking over lands and doing continued terrorist attacks, which they've been doing in Syria. But now Turkey is also saying it threatens them too. It threatens everybody. Israeli state is a terrorist threat to the region. And he's right about that because the Israeli state operates through PKK and YPG. So nonetheless, though, while Israeli state may claim victory over Hezbollah, keep in mind, though, that Hezbollah, if that's defeated, then yeah, Iran still has promised to respond. Mossad headquarters near Tel Aviv targeted with Qadah one ballistic missile. Lebanese resistance movement says it targeted the headquarters of the Israeli spy agency Mossad with advanced ballistic missile in response to the recent pager explosions and the assassination of top commanders of the popular group. Hezbollah announced in a statement on Wednesday that it struck a Mossad headquarters in the suburbs of Tel Aviv with a Qadah ballistic missile in support of our defiant Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip and as a part of backing its daring, honorable resistance and in defense of Lebanon and its people. The Islamic resistance fighters targeted on Wednesday the Mossad headquarters of the suburbs of Tel Aviv with ballistic missile, the statement said. So like everything else there, as it tells you, beat your plowshares and the swords and pruning hooks and spears. Let the weak say I'm strong. Well, keep in mind, though, that as these nations are going to get armed and they're going to come up against the Israeli state. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 4. And, of course, Russia is going to be a major part of this. I will turn you around and put hooks into your jaws and lead you out with all your army, horses and horsemen. You know, and what's that talking about? That's talking about the heavy weaponry. All splendidly clothed in great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, having, you know, ballistic missiles, right? Hypersonic missiles. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. You know, S-400s, S-500 systems, the missile delivery systems. Turkey, which is Gomer, and all its troops. The house of Tagarma from the north, and all its troops, many people with thee, meaning that they will all be nuclear armed. Prepare yourself and be ready, you and all your companies that are gathered about you, and be a guard for them, which is what Russia's doing. It's going to be safeguarding them, and it's going to be arming them. So, like everything else, though, after many days, you will be visited in the latter years. You will come into the land that is brought back from the sword and gathered from many people on the mountains of Israel, which have been long been desolate. They were brought out of the nations, now all of them dwell safely, meaning that the Israeli state is going to get wiped out in this. You know, and the Most High is going to back this because it's the Most High speaking to begin with. So hopefully all this has been edifying. This is just some of the articles, but hey, this war is drawing near. Let them say Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadosh, Wal Obal Babal. Brakathum to your hopeful elect. Shalom.